Recently, I just took a walk with my camera to take some photographs and talk a bit. And that's kind of fun because I don't have to worry about video and just let my mind wander. And I mentioned my camera when I was walking, so I thought I'd go ahead and show it. It's the Olympus EM1 Mark II, and that's the Sigma 30 millimeter micro four thirds aperture 1.4 lens. So that's what I was taking the photos with when I was walking around. And this camera is small enough and pro enough to travel and take good photos. It's doesn't have the most big sensor. It's micro four thirds and 20 megapixels or something like that, 24. But still, it's more than adequate for most heavy lifting work. And as a travel camera, it's fantastic. And the video quality is really good. And there's all kinds of things you can do with the camera, time lapse and everything. And it's just, unassuming. It's a good street photography camera. Good for landscapes, portraiture, whatever. And I really love it. I'm just going to keep it. They have better cameras every year, but I'm attached to this one as a digital, camera. It's great. So the other thing I was talking about was, why do we have to be enemies with everybody? In fact, it's a very unenlightened way to be. And I think in a way it's living in sin to just automatically think that people who are different from you are worthy of enmity for no good reason. So most of what we do in our world is just full of it, actually. Manufacturing enmity for power's purposes, basically, so that certain people of a certain class or a certain type can make a killing, basically. And I just want everybody to examine themselves deeply and really ask yourself, why are they my enemy? Why do I dislike them so much? Because the powers that be will use your emotion to rile you up, and they will use that emotion to control you and to use you as cannon fodder and to rob you blind and oppress you and take advantage of you. And we should be more independent. We should tell these people who are playing the great game that they should worry, they should be afraid of us, because we're not going to just take it like that anymore. We're going to think about the BS, the propaganda, the public relations, the marketing, and we're going to, take back our heart, ourselves, our mind, and refuse to play their game. Because regardless of, when we're all going to pass away, what happens at the end of time, or when the sun supernovas, what matters more is right here and now, how we live and the state of peace and unity that we can discover and create and live within. It's really important because we're going to need all hands on deck to sustain a healthy culture of Homo sapiens on this planet for, hopefully a long future. Maybe that doesn't matter to you because you're happy now. You're a UFC champ and you have 2 Lamborghinis in the garage and everything's going great. You're married, you got kids, blah, blah, blah. So maybe it doesn't matter, and that's okay. But as long as we have these divisions within ourselves and within communities, and we don't recognize and understand people's differences and cherish them and learn from them, then we're in trouble. And that's not even to discuss energy and war and all the other existential threats we face. And by the way, how's the weather? I can't, I watch weather now. I just put 2 and 2 together. Maybe you'd say, well, in 1960, the weather was weird too, but you just didn't equate it with the horrible global heating thing. But the global heating thing is for real, and we still have a chance to do something about it, but that chance is going away very quickly. Another 5, 10 years, and it's over, done and dusted. I don't even think the 2 degree thing can be held anymore. We're going to go beyond 2 degrees above the pre-industrial baseline, and it's going to change everything. All habitats on Earth are going to shift. And I don't know if we have the capability to coordinate a response to that. It's not about population. It's not about us versus them. It's just about understanding who you are and understanding people for who they are and making the connection that the love thing is a real important thing. So I want you to think about that when I'm yammering on. I hope you like the photographs, and I look forward to going to Coimbra soon to do a street photography and walk and talk, and I'll take my video camera and take some videos there so you can see Coimbra. It's a beautiful city. Okay, so take good care, and Bulliam out. Enjoy the picture show. Hello, everybody. Sunny day here. Somewhere between 15 and 18 degrees Celsius. Beautiful day. Some clouds, but very blue sky also. I'm just doing a walk and talk in the village. Didn't want to do any video. And I've got my Olympus camera. EM1 Mark II. I like this camera. I like the style. It's fun and it's good. You can do professional work with it. Take some photos with this voiceover. I'm using a field recorder, a Zoom F1 field recorder to record. These are really handy. Anyway, yeah, as usual, I get comments from posts, and you know, I know who people are parroting if they're reading this person or that person. If I'm familiar with their work, I'll recognize where the opinion's coming from. And if I don't recognize the opinion, then you know, I have some work to do. Looking up an author or a source and try and understand what's going on with this person. And I find that very fun and interesting. So someone was telling me that, you know, democracies don't work, that, you know, they always produce oligarchy, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it's that, you know, monarchist kind of reactionary opinion. And I always think when I hear that, I'm wondering, you know, what might it have been like, really? I always say throw a dart at a historical timeline and then go to work, you know, evaluating how you thought life might have been like back then. If you were a serf or a tenant farmer or a crafts person, how does that work at scale when the monarchy and its elite is running the show because they're smart enough to? They're the CEOs, they're the smart bits. And the plebs and proles are service workers. not blacksmiths or, you know, I mean, you're not a tradesman. You're a service worker in the gig economy or whatever. And of course, AI is coming for these jobs, service jobs. You know, it is easy to think of these the new tools, AIs, that are going to need huge data centers to run, lots of power, lots of energy. And we might as well dispense with any fantasies of too cheap to meter fusion energy anytime soon. And even if we had that, things are still problematic in terms of our socioeconomic system. But so you don't like democracy, TM, whatever that is. I always find that, you know, people who are part of an elite, either because they're rich or they're an elite musician maybe, or an elite academic, or you're in the halls of power, whatever, however you want to define elites. A lot of times I tend to hear attitudes from these people that are not sympathetic to humanity in general, people. They think people are stupid, they're idiots, they're corrupt, Lord of the Flies, you know, put them on an island, they're going to eat each other. There's plenty of evidence, and many books have been written about how people cooperate and partner and are able to work together. So people are architects, designers, creators, and they cooperate to accomplish things when they need to. Of course, if the name of the game is owning something, nice cactus here. There are many case studies where people have been in difficult straits and really came up with ways to cooperate with one another that were extremely effective. So, you know, you're going to have different people who have an interest in this or that, saying that you have to organize things this way because I want to keep my advantage, keep my position, my wealth, my power, my elite status. And, you know, I can't just run around trying to empower people, because that would mean there would be more competition, right? And you don't really want competition. We really are, you know, monopoly capitalism is the thing. So we give lip service to fair competition under the law, and then we do, not we, but the players, the people who have the comparative advantage, do everything to undermine fair play and the law. So I don't know if under some form of modern 21st century monarchy there would be much of a difference. You're just calling people something else. The king, the CEO of the government, the executive, whatever. And then they're going to run things according to their best interests, because nothing in that system requires the kind of cooperation and coordination and respect of liberty, freedom, justice, all these kinds of things. The idea is that, well, they're motivated and incentivized to be just and to care about people, because if they don't, they'll be overthrown. But we forget how powerful these systems are, these structures, these social relationships, whoever's running them. So today we have media outlets that are government supported literally by the Pentagon and institutions like that, that tell you you can't listen to independent journalism because it's all conspiracies and whatnot. They have so much more power to get out there and be heard and read. And so a lot of people just aren't looking at that anyway. They're not really that interested in figuring out what's true or not, being so-called media literate. These are pretty flowers growing on the side of the road. The wind is kind of moving things around a bit, so I want to have fairly high shutter speed when I take the photo. It's not always what you think, and then what you grew up with you take for granted, Hey, Fort! Oh my God! Oh. My neighbor lost so much weight. He used to walk, and he'd take his shirt off and walk in the sun, and he was kind of like me. He was a little bit portly. And he started working out. Now he's jogging. My God, that guy must have lost 40 pounds. He wasn't huge. He wasn't, morbidly obese. He was just kind of manly obese. And now, geez, he looks like a teenager. I mean, he's just really in great shape. I gotta see if I can do that at my age. No excuse. Oh, these are pretty flowers, and they smell good too. They're really nice. Wow, I can hear the bees, which I like. Here's some roses growing on the side of the road. Wonder if I can get this rose with the background of the sky. Get the exposure. It's really pretty. They look like paper, these roses. It's really cool texture, very delicate. I'm using a 30 millimeter micro four thirds Sigma lens, and it's very nice. I think I like it. It's a long lens, not really great for street photography necessarily, but going out and shooting portraits or flowers, things like that, it's pretty nice. Sometimes I like a long lens perspective on a landscape where it compresses the image a little bit. But I think my favorite kind of lens for running around taking pictures is the 17 millimeter Olympus. I really love that. It's very diverse. You can get shallow depth of field if you're close to the subject. You can focus really close in, and the quality of the image is really nice. And it's wide enough that you can get good perspectives when you're walking around a city like Lisboa or Porto or Coimbra. There's so much to photograph in these places. And then if you want to get close to a subject and get a nice portrait shot with a blurred out background, you can decrease your aperture to where you need it. If you want to go all the way down, I think this is 1.4, which is pretty wide. wide open. And the Olympus lens, the 17 millimeter is 1.8, which is still wide open enough when you're close to the subject. You can get that nice, either bokeh if there's lights, or you can get a nice, blurry background in the shot and really get a clear, crisp picture of the subject. Yeah, it's nice. But long lenses are fun too. And sometimes, I know I'm off on the photography now. Sorry. You didn't want to hear the other stuff anyway. But anyhow, it's fun to go out with a long lens too. And it is really, I learned this from other photographers, but it is fun to just choose a lens and just use it all day. And you really get to think, beautiful birds of prey I'm seeing. You get to really think about, the limitations of the lens and the creative opportunities that provides you as a photographer. So a lot of times limitations are good. Constraints. They challenge your creativity. And, I think we should be, entertaining these constraints in our political system. This is nice back here, beautiful view. Some poppy flowers. Wow, a lot of poppies. Really pretty. I want to go down here, get a picture with this tree in the foreground and the poppies in the village in the background. Focus on the poppies. See if I can get and then I want to get closer to these poppies because it's a nice field of red poppies. And it's really pretty. I'll use the screen and get a lower angle, or shoot from a lower perspective. Let's see what I can do here. It's hard to tell because, let me see where my focus is. Okay. So if I do that, it's hard to see in the sunlight, looking at the screen. And then maybe a close up with the red in the background, a poppy close up with lots of red in the background would be fun. So let's see what I can do there. What kind of a poppy? Hey, poppy. Gotta get down low on this thing. That's nice. I think I don't, I'm shooting raw. I don't really need to have this as a 16:9 because I can zoom in, crop it. So I'll just go back to 4:3. Sometimes you want to have the height. That's kind of nice. Don't be a chimp. No chimping. Especially in street photography. You don't want people to know you're taking pics. Snap it. Look at it when you get home. Well, that was a nice moment. Poppy fields. So, how am I doing here? Good? All right. Yeah, so critical thinking and media literacy. You really have to know. You have to ascertain and interrogate the intentions of the outlet. What overall biases do they have? Can you notice those? And what are they really trying to achieve through their information? Because other than independent media where you just have, all journalists have biases, but where you have people who are actually just trying to do decent work. Lily. They have a editorial line. They are not just reporting the data, the information, the facts. They're spinning a tale. And there's a huge economy surrounding that, or market. And the market is complex. It's like a kaleidoscope of interests that interact and depend on each other. And primarily the focus of all these interests is profits. So even when you have a so-called 501c or whatever, a nonprofit structure, you're actually being funded by people whose businesses are run for profit. You have to understand that. There's a nice, I don't think these people mind, it's a whole thing of wood here. I like this one angle, but behind there's too many power wires. So I'm going to go on the other side and see what I can do. Get this wood with the background. So, what do they want, right? I never did understand really, honestly, for a long time, why we have to hate Russia so much, I've met lots of Russian people, and I never felt like they were more evil than any other group of people in the world. And of course, we in the West tend to think that Russians are so brainwashed that, and they're forced to, they're going to be trucked off to the gulag if they don't go along with Putler. And we in the West are not brainwashed at all. We have a new idiot in the White House every 4 to 8 years, doing the same shit for the same people over and over again, getting the same results. It's just a same thing, different day, new name, The pivot to Asia thing, we can't even do that. We're going to have to, pivot to the Middle East again, and pivot to Ukraine, and then pivot to Asia. We're going to have to do all these pivots to accomplish, to maintain the hegemony, the empire, and for its people. And basically, it's a global system. So you're talking about more or less American-designed structures that are running the world. And anyone who plays in that game, on that field, they have certain guarantees and protections. And people who want to do things differently are considered not just heterodox. They're just considered to be, just evil, and they're portrayed that way, which is on the face of it idiotic. But we tend to agree with that or go along with it. You purple weeds. The grape leaves are out. Looking good, looking good. I should get a grape leaf shot. Google always tells me I have similar shots. Yeah, of course, because I'm taking pictures around where I live, so. Another grape leaf shot. Oh, how exciting. These red flowers and the ivy are kind of nice. Too much wind. It's spoiling my shot. So, we should know by now that, that's who they work for. That's what these organizations, think tanks, media outlets, they work for that machine. And they really don't care about normal folks. So whether it's a king or a CEO running the show, or, Trump's going to come in and run the country like a business, or Margaret Thatcher, whatever. It serves capital, and that's just a generic term for all the institutions that run this for-profit world where we exploit not just the working people. This sounds commie, but it's not. And materials and the social relations, but nature, earth, life. And the externalities are more than just, externalities. It's built into the logic of the system. So I'm gonna go, I gotta get shallower. I'm gonna do this. Shallower depth of field. Whatever. So and then of course you can cheerlead it, but most thinking people aren't that small-minded. People who read a lot, but anyone who just watches TV news and they think they're informed about the world, they're going to be very handicapped. Sorry, that's not a good term. They're going to have a very shallow view of what's really happening, and it's going to be marked by emotion. When Dana Bash comes out and starts bashing the student protesters, it's very charged language, very intense. What are these fucking kids doing, And of course, the language they use, obviously, when a Palestinian kid dies, it just dies mysteriously. And when somebody else on the other side gets killed, they were murdered. That's an obvious thing, but what's not obvious to a lot of people is that, they use the language for everything. So if you're a student protester, God forbid, you were radicalized by TikTok, because God knows you're too stupid to not have the mainstream opinion about a thing. I mean, it's just idiotic to think that you might have an informed opinion or have some good reasons and justifications for your ire. Of course, if it doesn't fit with the logic of the system as it is, then it has to be condemned, and you have to spin a tale that the other side is insane. So yeah, Russians are all evil, brainwashed people, and Americans aren't. None of the PR and propaganda and marketing and advertising, it doesn't affect Americans in the same way that it affects Chinese people. Because we know they're all just little red book thumping mob. They don't have any ideas. and they have no power, and so on and so forth. Of course, I've been to these countries, and I've lived in China, and I can't see it that way because I have so many Chinese friends, and they're well-educated, thoughtful, intelligent people who have agency and free will, just like we in the West, unless you're Robert Sapolsky or Sam Harris. But they have agency, choice, can make choices based on what they think is better or optimal or whatever in their own best interest. But we're trained to believe that these people don't have the capability of doing that. So, which is just idiotic on the face of it, because we're all Homo sapiens. We're all built the same way. And though culture influences us deeply, we're still just people, you know? And if you ask the majority, I guess if you did a survey asking Chinese people, are you proud to be Chinese? Do you like living in China, whatever city you're in? You know, I mean, people who used to work for me were all missing their hometown, even though they were working in Shanghai. And they really looked forward to New Year when they could go back. And they used to talk lovingly and glowingly about their hometown or their home city. And they have deep family ties, great love, great passion. And, you know, we think, you know, well, I'm a badass because I'm an American who made some money or whatever. I watch these UFC fights, and when they start chanting USA, USA, it just makes me shake my head. Not that it's bad to root for the home team, but what is the USA if not just a brand of power? How does Uncle Sam represent you, really? Not to say that there aren't all kinds of really nice places in St. Louis. Beautiful parks and stuff, and you can be proud of being from St. Louis or any other town or city in America. And chant USA, USA. But then Americans are just out and about hating on each other. So there's a great deal of bom dia. This neighborhood, I like this kind of like planter with these pretty yellow flowers. Notice how I call everything like flowers because I don't know the name. Yeah, so yeah, I guess if you don't travel that much, maybe some Oklahoman would think that people in Arkansas are idiots. Even in Ireland, you know, people used to make jokes about people from Cork or people from Mayo or whatever, if you're from Clare. I mean, that's normal. We like to do that. But when it becomes this pernicious, mindless identification with a brand with no critical application of critical interrogation of the brand at all, ever, it's very strange. And I do wonder, as the United States makes the same mistakes over and over again, it's going to pile up, and sooner or later it's not going to end well. So, hola, bom dia. So, yeah, it won't end well because the poor guys, you're thinking about all the young people who are probably a little bit concerned about their future because of various challenges we're facing that are different from the ones we faced before. I mean, every era has been difficult for people. Every period, every generation has had their difficulties, challenges. But our situation changes faster, and there's just a whole bunch of very real and large challenges that are extremely complex and difficult to solve and require coordination, cooperation, and a huge effort, and also a completely different way of organizing our social relationships to solve. Everybody's so friendly here, I swear to God. All the cyclists saying hello to me, all the drivers when they drive by salute, wave and smile. I just love that. They're going to make these mistakes. They're going to call people up and say, well, if the Japanese don't want to die, and the South Koreans and the Taiwanese and the Australians, New Zealanders, all the people who work for Uncle Sam Globecap don't want to sign up and kill Chinese people for some reason. I don't know why people dislike Chinese people. Like, this whole anti-Semitism hysteria is insanely stupid. I mean, it's just not there. People don't hate on Jews, but they just don't like what's going on in Israel right now. For good reason, I think. But whatever, lots of people talk about that day in and day out. So somehow they're going to fire you up. And false flags and conspiracies and all that aside, Gulf of Tonkin, 911, whatever. I mean, one great way to get a whole bunch of people to join the military is to have a domestic attack or something that you can frame as atrocities, barbaric, inhuman atrocities. And then that justifies your going over there and committing atrocities times 10, 10x brutality, 10x collateral damage, 10x death and destruction. And you can justify it because, well, on this particular day, somebody kicked my sister in the shins, and that whole neighborhood's gotta die. It's not proportional, it's not rational, it's insane. So I always wonder, if you're a strategic investor and like a Ray Dalio, you understand geopolitics, big trends, and you're saying, what kind of warfare is coming down? Is it going to be total war? Is it going to be fighting insurgents in Africa or wherever? Or what kind of technology? Autonomous drones, dogs, robot dogs with 30 caliber, Gatling guns on their back or whatever. So, what? I hate to use the word ecosystem. I don't know, conglomerate or conglomeration of corporations do we back? So you have the feeder corporations that feed materials and parts, the $9,000 screw that the Pentagon likes to buy. So I don't like the power lines, but I like the lemons and the flowers. So finding an angle on that that's attractive is not easy. Maybe I can, it's ironic, it's so bizarre people don't understand global capitalism. how these institutions work. IMF, World Bank, all these things. It's not conspiratorial. These things were structured for a purpose, and that purpose is to make shareholders and upper management and, banks and hedge funds and people who run those institutions a heck of a lot of money. If you were investing, you were smart, and say you really are smart enough to do your own thinking and manage your own risk, and you're not paying somebody else a percentage of your earnings to think things through for you. What conglomerate of corporations would you invest in? And then, getting back, sorry, I get distracted looking at pretty things, people. Anyway, so the irony is that a lot of the rare earths and a lot of the little bits and pieces that you need to build that fucking drone that you're going to use to kill civilians, or the HIMARS or whatever, the 2,000-pound bombs that you're going to use to... It's funny, they soften buildings up with a barrage of 2 or 3 missiles or one HIMAR barrage or whatever. And then they wait a while, and then they do it again to make sure all the civilians there get murdered or dead. And then they wait a while till the emergency people come, and then they shoot again to make sure all the policemen and the ambulance drivers and fire people get killed. It's grotesque, but anyway. So to build these weapons of destruction and murder, you have to import shit from all over the place, including oil from Russia, believe it or not, because the oil from Russia still is in the market. And it will be forever, because easy, really high-grade oil, depending on what you're talking about, Brent crude or whatever, is diminishing in supply. Over time, it continues to diminish. So you need their energy, you need Russian energy, you need Chinese stuff, because America doesn't manufacture a whole bunch of stuff anymore. And you're supposed to have this beautiful service job, you don't want to work in a factory or whatever. I think people would do almost any kind of work within reason if it wasn't too dangerous or too bad for their health, whether it's mental health or physical health, would do any kind of work if they were paid fairly and could live a life of dignity. They would do almost any kind of work, including building cars or hammers or screwdrivers or whatever the heck. But GlobeCap, the corporations want to take advantage of labor arbitrage, as we do. And so the technology flows and the capital flows, and the labor is somewhere else. But the empire has to rule. So ironically, if you're in the market, if you're a commodities trader or a Ray Dalio-esque, armchair in your underwear investor, you're getting things from your quote-unquote enemy. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is this enmity is concocted. It's a sham. It's a grotesque con. And these people really aren't your enemy. So we really need to encourage our leaders to be peacemakers, to be diplomats, to be builders, to be architects, designers, real inventors, and to care about people and life over money, period. Because, if Elon has $1 billion, he's sorted anyway. So I just don't see what the problem is wanting to limit the ill-gotten gains of con men. Having real rule of law that counts for something that you can't just pay for with lobbyists and lawyers and consultants. All the horrific McKinsey scams and KPMG scams, all the kind of bestial, murderous ogres and droods that fuck with everybody. And these corporations get away with murder over and over again. You can look at a million case studies. Why is it so hard to maintain Boeing jets? Well, it's a financialized company now. They don't really care about QC that much. Workers that take pride in whatever. I don't know about it, but you get my meaning. These people aren't your enemy, and you shouldn't allow news organizations and politicians and business people, profits first sociopaths, to make enemies out of people who shouldn't be and are not your enemies. Okay, that's it. Boolean T is gonna have lunch. So, Boolean T out.